And welcome back to EDH Deck Building. I am your host, Demo, and I think I might have come to a solution on the problem that I've been having with removal lately, and likely a lot of you have as well. This has sort of become a series of videos. Of course, I'm a huge proponent of removal. I think it is underplayed in the format, even more so now. Again, have already made a video, or I'm making a video about how the format keeps speeding up and getting faster because, power creep being a big one. They're just coming out with all these really powerful commanders, real powerful cards in the 99. Removal really is the only good solution there, but even at that, it's okay because my really powerful commander has Ward 3 or something, or it's okay because I got a Flare of Fortitude in my hand, so go ahead and cast that board wipe, right? We've run into that problem as well, and this series started out with me talking about how board wipes have gotten worse, okay? So I started with that. I'm like, okay, there's so many of these I protect my whole team spells now, particularly in white, but other colors do have options, that board wipes seem to be getting worse and worse and worse, right? And if I just cast a Wrath of God, which, again, for me, that is a card I never put in a commander deck. And the reason why, more so the case now, but it was always the case. As long as I've been playing commander, it was always the case that I want to cast a board wipe that advantages me. And Wrath of God doesn't advantage me unless all my creatures are indestructible or my commander is indestructible. There are scenarios where that would work, or I'm playing an Avacyn deck and I just want to play every board wipe I can possibly find. Maybe I want dice triggers or something like that, right? There are scenarios where it'll work, but for me, I want the board wipe that advantages me. And of course, with all of these heroic intervention and phasing out effects that we have in the format now, that's even more the case, where if I just cast a board wipe and this dude gets to keep his whole board, wow. And in fact, I just played a game where it literally cost me the game. I ended up casting Austere Command, which is probably my favorite board wipe in the format. I think. I don't play Farewell personally. Austere Command is versatile. That's what I like about it. And in the current situation in that game that I was playing, I looked at my board and I'm like, okay, I do have a couple of 4 mana value creatures or greater, and then a few. In fact, I had more that were 3 mana value, but my opponent had a bunch, and I thought it'll hurt him a lot more. There was one guy that was particularly ahead. He also had a ton of artifacts. That was the big one. So I thought, okay, I'll pick mana value 3 or less, and I'll pick artifacts, and that'll really hurt him bad. And these guys, again, it hurts them less, but I'm less worried about them, right? There's usually always that one guy that's way ahead. And me, it is going to kind of hurt me a lot, but that's okay because it's going to hurt him more. And I just wasn't taking into account I protect my whole team effects, and he cast Flare of Fortitude, and he didn't lose anything. And it was an absolute blowout. I literally paid 6 mana to destroy my own board, essentially, because he lost nothing. I lost a bunch of stuff, and he lost nothing. It was game over from there. There was no coming back from that, not for me anyway. I further made a video talking about, okay, well, maybe board wipes aren't getting worse. Maybe the answer is to play board wipes that more advantage you, even go farther down, where I'm casting the board wipe like the split up that isn't going to remove any of my creatures at all. This is a solution. I don't know if it's the greatest one, but I literally just went over the scenario where it didn't work out so great for me. But if you cast a board wipe that advantages you more, that way, if your opponent casts the protect my whole team thing, it's going to make it so that, sure, they get to keep their board, but at least you get to keep your board as well. That is a solution. Again, in the board wipes video, I talked about how maybe you should play more spot removal. A couple of guys there said, oh, well, spot removal has gotten worse because of the ward. So now you got to pay like 4 mana for your Swords to Plowshares. That's not great. And I'm like, man, they're really making it tough on us, right? They're making us tough on us to just remove our opponent's stuff. Funny enough, the removal is getting better too. We got lots of great removal options in the format, but it almost like it doesn't matter because there's so much I protect my own team or the ward or the whatever that it's making it really, really difficult. And as I say all the time, it's not just the creatures, right? We got to get rid of the artifacts. We got to get rid of the enchantments. We got to do all of that as well. I think I have come up with a solution that I like, what I'm going to start doing, which is I'm going to start playing more sweepers, but sweepers that hit a particular permanent type, okay? I'm trying this out, and I'm throwing it out there for you guys to try out as well. The situation where I cast the Austere Command, I don't know if there's a worse feeling, where I spent all that mana, I lost a few things, and the guy I was trying to get, He lost nothing. That is such a bad feeling and such a blowout in a commander game. In that situation, if I had had something that just destroyed all artifacts, it would have been, in my opinion, a way better scenario for me, even if he did use the protection spell, right? And then obviously it wouldn't have hurt me really at all. Again, that's one of the reasons why I chose artifacts on it, because I didn't have any. So the new solution I have to this issue is I'm going to start playing more sweepers that are type specific. I don't know if there's an actual name for that, but type specific sweepers. So for example, something that destroys all enchantments, right? Patrician Scorn, I will throw out there. Interesting old card. Has the Future Sight frame because of course it's from Future Sight. 4 mana, instant speed, destroy all enchantments. Not great. However, if you've played another white spell this turn, you can play it for free. That's great. So all I have to do is just play any white spell on my turn, and this is free destroy all enchantments. Obviously, if I'm in a deck where I have lots of enchantments, I'm not going to want to play this because I'm going to just, how does that advantage me, right? It doesn't. It's a big advantage in the game all around because, of course, I'm obviously going to be casting it when there's lots of enchantments on the battlefield I want to get rid of. You can even cast it just for that one enchantment. Again, if I cast a white spell and then cast this, just to get rid of my opponent's Rhystic Study, I think that's probably worth it, right? But it also can be an absolute blowout sometimes, and if you're in a deck that doesn't have a lot of enchantments like my Lulu deck, that's the deck where I kind of came up with this idea, where I'm playing my Lulu deck and I'm thinking, okay, well, my commander, my other commander, my background, Guild Artisan, is an enchantment. But other than that, I really have none at all. It's an artifact deck. So I really have no problem wiping the boards of enchantments all the time. I should put more destroy all enchantments effect in that deck. There's lots of great options out there. Obviously, if you're in green and white, particularly getting rid of enchantments. If you actually have a decent amount of enchantments, you can play Cleansing Meditation. There's options for that as well. This is one I put in my Chalet deck because I have lots of enchantments. And I was just thinking, yeah, like targeted removal is nice, but you can only get that one thing. I don't know. Maybe it's just me. Maybe it's the people I play with, but I find there's always like 2 or 3 enchantments on the battlefield that I want to get rid of. And if you have enchantments you don't want to lose, this is a pretty good one. 1 white sorcery. It destroys all enchantments. But if you have Threshold, you can then return the enchantments destroyed that you control back to the battlefield. So you do destroy all enchantments, but then any enchantments that you lost go back into play. So it basically is a one-sided enchantment board wipe if you have Threshold. So there's a great option if you actually don't want to hit your own enchantments. But a lot of times I think it's totally worth it. I mean, think about it this way, guys. When you cast a Wrath of God, you're destroying all your creatures too, right? That's what sweepers are supposed to do. Do you want to lose your creatures? Probably not, but you're casting it in the moment where I got to do this. I'm totally outnumbered. The same would go for enchantments or any other permanent type. If I cast Cleansing Meditation and I don't have Threshold, that's okay. I'm going to lose a couple of my enchantments, but the ones my opponents have are way better. It would be nice if I could get the Threshold and get them back, but it's still totally worth it, right? That's when you cast a board wipe. You cast the board wipe when it's totally worth it for you, but it's going to be less of a blowout, right? If you cast a type specific sweeper like this, that way you're only hitting the enchantments, so you're not going to really be out that much, right? That's sort of my thinking here. Obviously, if you're doing enchantments, white and green, tons of options. I've talked about Barrier Breach before, which that's not really a sweeper, but it hits 3 enchantments. Chances are you're going to get all the nasty ones off the battlefield with that guy. Totally underplayed card in the format. I recommend it. And I know people will say, okay, but you're putting a removal spell in your deck that only deals with 1 permanent type. That doesn't seem great. But there is no point in any commander game I think I've ever played where there wasn't at least 1 or 2 problematic enchantments on the battlefield. So maybe it's the people I play with, maybe your play group's different. But again, there is a situation here, a problem that needs to be solved with the removal in the format because there's just so many protection spells and so many things you got to work around that, again, it's game over. If I cast a board wipe and my opponent gets to keep all his stuff, not only did I tap out on my turn, so it's like a time walk for my opponent, but also they get to keep all their stuff and I don't. Or you know, these guys over here don't. It completely unbalances the game, all of that stuff. I'm trying to find a solution for it. I think this is it. If you want to sweep all the artifacts, obviously red is great at that. What I am recommending you guys do, and what I have done, is I look at my deck and I'm like, okay, well, I'm not really playing a lot of artifacts, right? Maybe you're in a Gruul deck. I would say probably a Gruul deck has a huge advantage in that you could probably put a lot of artifact and enchantment sweepers in there, and you'll probably do just fine because likely you're leaning heavily on creatures. Of course, because you have a ramp in the green ramp, which is the best ramp, you don't really need to rely on mana rocks. You know, I put like almost no mana rocks at all in my green decks. Sometimes, in fact, I don't put any. So it's very easy for you to do artifact sweepers. And in particular, one like Meltdown destroys each artifact with mana value X or less is particularly good because, of course, now you can choose what X is. So now I can keep my Arcane Signet and only get all the treasure tokens off the battlefield, right? I can pay X is 0 and destroy all the artifact tokens, which is another reason to be playing sweepers like this. And in fact, you can even go after the tokens. And one of the cards that I've recommended the most on my channel, and I'm recommending it again here, I recommend it to my patrons all the time, is Aether Snap. Like we'll be sitting there playing a game and there's like 20 counters on creatures in play. There's like 15, 20 tokens in play. And I'll just be like, just imagine an Aether Snap right now. You know, I say it all the time. In the middle of a game, I'll just be like, man, it would be great if I had an Aether Snap in my hand right now. 3 black sorcery, remove all counters from all permanents and exile all tokens. This deals with so many things. It absolutely wrecks so many decks. I used to put this in all my decks back in the day because it kills planeswalkers, because of course it gets rid of the counters on the planeswalker, which then sends them right to the graveyard, right? Exiles all tokens, so all those zombie tokens, saproling tokens, but also the treasure tokens, food tokens, clue tokens. The commander format is awash in tokens right now. It's insane. Just think about the amount of commanders that are making tokens. This card is a massive blowout in so many games. But again, we're kind of in the situation where, okay, it's so common that it's likely that I'm doing it in my deck, right? I try to put this in every deck where I'm not really heavily leaning on the counters or tokens theme. I have this in my Torgar deck because my Torgar deck it actually is making tokens, but it doesn't matter. Just like a normal board wipe, you're not putting a Wrath of God in a deck that has no creatures. You're putting a Wrath of God in every deck, and your creatures are going to die too. Think about it like that. I absolutely am exiling my own tokens. When I cast this, I don't care because it's such a blowout for my opponents as well. This is absolutely, I would call it a type-specific sweeper. It is going to be a huge blowout, removing the counters also. Not really a sweeper, but it's definitely going to sweep those planeswalkers off the battlefield. If you're looking for that sweeper that exiles all planeswalkers, they don't really make cards that hate on planeswalkers. This is one that inadvertently does. This does destroy all planeswalkers. So I think putting cards like this, like type-specific sweepers, I'm calling them, okay? I look at my deck. I don't play a lot of artifacts. I don't play a lot of enchantments. Maybe I don't play a lot of tokens, stuff like that. Look for the gap that is missing in your deck. That's not really going to hurt you a lot. Again, in my Lulu deck, Guild Artisan is my other commander, and it's an enchantment, but that's okay. The fact that I'm going to get 5 or 6 other enchantments off the battlefield that my opponents control is totally worth it to have my Guild Artisan go back to the command zone. I'm totally okay with that. I do have tokens in most of my decks, so Aether Snap might hurt me a little. I mean, if I got some treasure tokens in play, I'll just use them to cast this, right? It's not that big of a downside. I would say as long as you're not doing a Super Friends deck or you're not doing +1/+1 counters in a black deck, you should probably give Aether Snap a try. You'll find it is doing so much work. I imagine there's very few cards in the format outside of like a Farewell that are going to put that much work into a game than is an Aether Snap. Give that card a try. It is a solution to the problem, I think. This problem that I have been trying to work around for a while now, which is I have advocated on my channel, removal wins games. I leaned on it heavily for the longest time. Whatever the problem is, that's okay. I got removal for that. But if my opponent just casts a Blacksmith Skill or phases out their creature, slip out the back, something like that, okay, well, now all of a sudden my removal is not the answer. Maybe I need more answers. And I really think that a card type specific sweeper might be the option here. I'm not saying it is with absolute certainty, but it's something you can try. If you're having problems dealing with all the stuff your opponents are doing, their board is just filling up with crap, chances are something that destroys all artifacts, something that destroys all enchantments, something that removes all tokens might be the answer you are looking for. Give it a try and let me know in the comments below if you are already doing so. That is it for today, though, and thanks for tuning in.